everybody. I'm Thomas Reynolds, host of Some Say with Tom and Nikki. I am joined with Haven and Lucy today for TYT Community's last episode of the year. So that's going to be fun, and it'll be interesting. So hopefully everybody enjoys it. And I have a little background noise, so hopefully that didn't go over. And if it did, my apologies. Haven and Lucy, welcome to the program. Say hello.
Hey guys, hey Tom, hey Lucy.
Hey everybody.
See, it wouldn't be a show hosted by me if there weren't a little bit of technical difficulties or something going on. So at least we're consistent. I mean, throughout the year, we're consistent. We're going to start with our first story. We're going to be quick. And at the end, if you want to do some questions, feel free. Thank you for joining the show. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting. We finally have a real legitimate Obama scandal. Yeah, I know. It's like not Benghazi. And we'll see. We will see if the Fox News and Newsmax and all these organizations actually pick it up. This is from Mediaite. Obama administration accused of serious corruption while you were distracted, and distracted being by the interview skerfuffle. And that's always fun, is it not? Here's a little bit from this. For more than a year, Senator Robert Menendez, Democrat of New Jersey, and his staff engaged in a relentless effort to help Miss ISAIAS, I'm not going to butcher her name, urging senior government officials, including then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's Chief of Staff Cheryl Mills, to waive the ban. The senator's assistant came even though Miss family, major donor to him, and other American politicians do not live in the state. The Obama administration then reversed its decision and gave her the waiver she needed to come to the United States, just as tens of thousands of dollars in donations from the family poured into President Obama's campaign coffers. An email from Mr. Menendez's office sharing the good news was dated May 15, 2012. One day after, campaign finance records show her mother gave 40 grand to the Obama Victory Fund, which provided donations to the president and other Democrats. So here we have a scandal that's a legitimate scandal. Corruption, money, the best kind of scandal. And this is what I want to throw to you guys in the YouTube chat, and also Haven and Lucy. We'll go to Haven first. Do you think Fox and all these guys will cover it, or do you think it's going to be one of those, oh, well, the Republicans will do it, so they're not even going to bother with it?
Oh, they're definitely going to ignore it because there's not going to be an angle that they can attack it at which they can make it look as racist as possible, because you know that's their thing. And I mean, this is not his first scandal. I mean, a couple years ago he had the kill list that pretty much went completely ignored outside of the Intercept and people like Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill. So, you know, Fox News is definitely going to ignore this. They're going to do their best. They usually, if he's doing something they like, they don't say anything. And if they do something that's good for the people, then they're just going to, like, yell and tell him that he's a tyrant and he's, like, the second coming of Hitler and whatever the fuck it is that they like to throw out to people.
Well, this, too, is like a wolf-pack.com moment, too, because if we had regulations that actually prevented things like this and money wasn't speech, perhaps, I don't know, we wouldn't be seeing this type of chicanery going on. And like you said, I pretty much agree that I think they're going to ignore it. Maybe they'll get a few blips on the radar, but nothing major, because I can see President Mittens doing something like this. I can see President McCain doing something like this. So this is something that the GOP would do. And Lucy, why don't you give us your take on it?
Oh no, a political official is doing something that their donors want them to do. Oh no, it's not like we haven't heard this story a million times. It just happened that this time it was somebody's visa that, or green card, or whatever kind of entrance into the United States they wanted. That's the only difference in this story than any other of the million stories that we've heard. It just happens that it's I don't know, someone coming into the United States rather than getting a road put in someplace, or getting a casino, or getting a permit, or getting one of these or one of those. Somebody's getting paid. When the people are paying you, tell you to do something, you're gonna do it.
Yeah, you gotta grease that wheel to make it extra smooth for the ride. But no, it's a legit. This is what grinds my gears, to go all Peter Griffin on you. It's a legitimate story that we finally have, and it's like the drone story. We have these legitimate stories where Obama is actually doing wrong, and we can point to him and be like, no, this is not how liberals and progressives and socialist Democrats think. And it goes unnoticed, and you have to go to, you know, alternative media to actually find them covered. Granted, media is pretty big and it's getting some coverage, but it's surely not getting enough. And it also shows that we can be critical of our own people, which is nice, which is hard to see in the conservative side, unless, of course, you're coming from, oh, he's a Wall Street guy, or he's not religious enough, or he's not pro-abortion. He's too pro-abortion. There we go. For them, that's how they're critical on that side. Haven, any last words on this and then go to your story?
Yeah, the whole scandal is pretty much basic. It's not even like, you can't even blame it on Chicago-like politics. This is why Wolfpack is so important, because it's become a systematic thing. Like, in order for things to get done, you have to be a billionaire. You have to have ties. You have to be able to have a direct line to a president or some type of politician. I mean, I live in a state where my past governor just is facing corruption charges himself, him and his wife, in Virginia. So it's like, you know, that's just the way of the world and how things go, which is rather unfortunate. And it's even more unfortunate that I think that everything else that people complain about with Obama, like the whole embargo thing, all of that is just a complete and utter distraction from things that we really need to focus on, like the corruption, like the drone strikes, like the killing of U.S. citizens. Like, those are big fucking things that nobody seems to give a shit about, because we're all worried about us allowing Cubans in Miami to send money to their family in Cuba. Like, it's asinine to me.
No, I completely agree. And Lucy, would you like to say anything else before we go to Haven's story?
Yes, I do. Politics. It's all about who you know and who you blow.
Hey, I didn't say the Q word yet, or the C word. Well, no, it's the Q word. So there you go. The final word goes to Lucy. And Haven, why don't you introduce the next story?
All right, so the next story is an international piece from The Guardian about the current climate when it comes to women's bodies in Ireland. Currently, there is a woman who is practically brain dead, but unfortunately, she's 17 weeks pregnant. So the Irish government has pretty much become the doctor and is forcing the family to keep her alive so that she can bring the baby to term and give birth to the baby, despite the fact that the family does not want this to happen. And it's rather interesting how this story is being told, because I guess for years and decades, and even in this country, we kind of come at this particular topic very emotionally, you know, on both sides. We tend to get really hyperbolic. But in Ireland, this is an even more dire situation where the government is really dictating how women conduct themselves when it comes to pregnancies, and even when it's life or death. We had the one Indian lady who died from her childbirth because she couldn't get an abortion. In the story, they're talking about 2 teenage girls who were suicidal because they had to keep their rapists' babies. And now we have this poor woman who passed away, who is now an incubator for a child that is definitely not wanted by the family. And I'm pretty sure the government is not going to go out of their way to take care of these this child. So what do you guys think about this situation?
Lucy, by all means, go first because I got a lot to say. So go ahead, my friend.
This just makes me so upset. It's almost like saying, hey, you have a vagina, therefore you're not a human and you're not entitled to die with dignity. Nobody wants the baby. Like, at this point, 17 weeks, I think it's still considered an embryo. Don't quote me as saying it's an embryo, but I do believe scientifically it's still an embryo. Like, it's not even a fetus yet. So that's why I'd be like, well, it's just an embryo. Nobody wants it. If we're forced to take care of it, it's going to be a drain on resources. We'll just say a little prayer for baby embryo. That's the whole thing that bugs me is, like, as a woman, you're not actually a person. Like I said on Facebook, women are not people. They're machines. If they have little girls, they're 3D printers. If they have little boys, they're baby making factories. That's it. That's all women are.
Yeah, and Lucy, you're exactly right. And it's a patriarchal system. We talk about this a lot on Some Say, and it's really getting old. And I wish that, we talk about how the Margaret Thatcher and the Europe broke the glass ceiling for women, and we have Angela Merkel and Hillary Clinton might break the glass ceiling. But let's be honest, if we're going to be really frank about it, it's still pretty solid rock, that ceiling. And we need to have more women leaders speak out about this, and forcefully so. And this way you guys can be able to empower, this is a crap way to say this, empower yourselves to be empowered, because no man should be putting the foot on you or giving you a spanking, which leads into our next story. And by the way, this reminds me of the Terry Schiavo case. Lots. And guess who might be running for president? The Terry Schiavo governor himself, Jeb Bush. So let's remember this, and remember stories like this when we go into the new year, because this is going to be coming up lots and lots and lots. And if you are pro-family, pro-woman, and you're even considering voting for Jeb Bush, look at this story, look at Terry Schiavo, and then do you really want to side with the Republicans? Do you really? The Democratic Party ain't much better, but do you really? I mean, unless you want to shoot yourself in the foot, literally, or maybe have your husband unplug you, or, come on. Let's be real here. And Haven, I'll give you the last word because we've got one more story to go.
Yeah, I mean, the logic behind it is completely asinine. I mean, with these abortion or anti-abortion movements, the whole thing is to, save a life, even at the expense of losing a life. And it's just disgusting. And it's obviously, I don't want to go down the idea of rape, but, a lot of times with rape, it's about power, it's about control. And I feel like this is just systematic control of a society's half of its population, which is women. And they want to dictate things and punish women for simply doing things that are natural, things that even men do, that they don't have to suffer for it. And it's all for this religious, push. Like, let's not forget that this is a heavily strong Catholic stronghold in this country. They have a Catholic lobby that's pushing for this. And I'm honestly surprised that the wonderful Pope that everybody is so goo-goo gaga over has yet to say anything about this, where there's actual people in his church that are dying from this ignorant, archaic laws that they're putting down in Ireland. He'll go here and, try to bring us together with Cuba. He'll go to South America, but I don't really see him doing a lot and talking a lot about Ireland. And there are people who are seriously suffering, and there's this growing underground kind of like black market to try to smuggle women out just to have abortions. Or they're going online and taking these seedy little pills that they don't really know what it'll do to their bodies, but they're desperate. And nobody in the church is talking about it, and nobody in the government really wants to push for anything. And it's like they're just inching forward, which is really unfortunate.
And Haven, you're exactly right. And a woman shouldn't have to be the choice for a woman shouldn't be a wire hanger, or I'm getting very graphic here, a wire hanger or throwing herself down the stairs. That should not be the choice for a woman, whether it's in Ireland or if it's in Texas. That should not be the choice, because you know what? That's your mother. That's your sister. That's your daughter. That's your granddaughter. You need to check yourself. And as a man, I'm going to say this as a man, put it in your pants. Put your pants up and then help raise that child if you're going to be all high and mighty about that. Otherwise, it's her decision. Get over yourself, and Jesus needs the wood. Lucy, would you like to say anything else, or do you want to move on to the next story with Haven introducing it? Okay, I think we're going to move on. Haven, why don't you present the next story, and we'll go on.
All right, so the next story, we're going to be going all the way across the pond back to America, and there's this rather interesting movement that's going on, and it's called the CDD, and what that stands for is the Christian Domestic Discipline. And what this is kind of like a relationship agreement between, quote-unquote, two consenting adults, where the head of the household, usually, of course, the male, is allowed to discipline his wife in a corporal punishment type of way. And apparently this is flourishing in the Christian community as far as maintaining equilibrium within a relationship. And I find the story rather interesting because a lot of the rationale behind this movement sounds a lot like the rationale behind BDSM or other fetish movements like that. But of course, the Christians say that there's absolutely no sexual leanings for this. You know, when my wife doesn't make me a sandwich, I, give her a little tap tap on the butt, and it is what it is, and I'm not getting any kind of a hard-on for it, of course, because that would be terrible and angels would die. But yeah, this is a rather seedy movement that's happening with you Christians. So what do you guys think about that?
Lucy, do you want to go first, and then I'll go, because I got a lot to say on this, and I want to give you some time.
Well, they may say it's not BDSM, but there are those couples who participate in BDSM who say, like, 1950 households, and they sign contracts, and they have these agreements, two consenting adults, or two or plus human consenting adults. I feel like I need to always specify that, but they have these types of agreements in that lifestyle, and I don't know, I'm not going to feel your crotch to make sure you're not getting a little chubby when you're giving your wife a little tap on the booty. Like, I'm sorry, boo, I'm not going to do it, but your contract seems to be a lot like one that's already existing in the BDSM world. So if you need to say that it's a Christian thing to feel better at night to get your kink off, I feel bad for you. I feel like you're really sexually repressed if you have to use religion as like a cover for it. But if you're happy and she's happy and y'all are getting your rocks off and happy, go for it. I don't care what you do behind your doors.
You kind of stole my. See, I thought I was going to be controversial here, Lucy. You kind of stole my thunder. I don't have a problem with this as long as it stays within the contract. And I would love it if they called it what it is, which is BDSM. I mean, it would be really nice if if you go to a place called Pet Life, there are forums called 1950s relationship, and you can find a guy or a girl who wants that type of thing. Don't look at me because but anyways, but here's where we draw the line, right? When it gets into the controlling, domineering, abusive part of it, when it gets to the story that we previously did, that's where we draw the line, and that's where I have a problem with it, and that's when I might spank you, and I'll bring the cane. So, and that's where I had the problem with it. So we have to be very clear where the lines are drawn and just call it what it is. It's BDSM. Don't be, oh, it's a Christian thing to do. Come on. You want to control your wife like in, like, not 1950s, like 50 BC. Let's be honest about it. Haven, go ahead.
So let's not forget that there is an element of this where it does take it to that extreme and crosses that line. The story goes over a couple of women who kind of try to find support online and they want to leave their relationships. And this is just used like a church sanctioned abusive relationship. So just think, you know, if Janae Rice was really serious about it being God's will and then her church totally backing it up, and if she wanted to leave and couldn't, that would be this situation. And that's the scary thing. And it kind of ties into the first story where you're seeing a sanctioned, systematically approved institution being brought in where women are being controlled by men and have little to no say over their safety. I personally am not a person for violence. I think that if you can't talk to somebody to get them to stop what you don't like, then you need to leave that situation. Nobody should ever put their hands on anyone. I mean, we're adults. And a wife, unless you're married to a 9-year-old, your wife should be able to have a conversation with you about things that were done and vice versa. One thing I don't like is that a lot of the men aren't letting themselves get beaten or spanked, which, if you're going to do that freaky shit, great, but it should be equal. Men aren't great. If you fucking leave your toilet seat up and your wife doesn't like that, you should get a paddle on every now and then. It shouldn't just be her going through all this. But of course, this is just another way that Christians are wanting to control their wives. And I hope that this is a small subgroup of Christianity, because I'm starting to see this heavily right turn and this really like dogmatic, extremist movement in the Christian community, which is kind of scary, because if we're going to complain about Muslims over there doing that to their women, maybe we should try to not do that to our women. Instead, is it just out of envy, or is it because we legitimately give a fuck about women and their plight?
Yeah, I gotta just jump in there real quick, and then I'll let Lucy go, and then we'll go on to the next story if everybody has everything. With your over there and everything, you're exactly right on that, because these are the same people who get all upset and butthurt over torture, but when they do it over there, they get all butthurt about them. But Brian Fisher the other day on Tom Hartman was, it's legal, it's accepted, and the whole time Tom Hartman was like, who would Jesus torture? Who would Jesus torture? And he would, it's legal, it's torture, it's not torture, it's legal, it's accepted. And Brian Fisher would not answer that question. And it was disgusting, it was gross. And Christians, who would Jesus spank? That's all I want to know. Explain to me that. Unless it's, consenting in bondage, who would Jesus spank? I don't think he would. Lucy, do you want to have the final word on this story and go from there?
I do. I just want to say, this whole story, it makes me feel like America really is becoming more xenophobic. Like, the Republicans are winning, everybody's evil if you're not a white Christian, 1950s, if you're not the white, even Founding Fathers, back when the Founding Fathers ruled, if you're not a rich, white, Protestant man who has some land and a wife and a girl on the side, then you're not important. And you're not allowed to come to our country, and you're not allowed to be free. That's what it feels like we're turning back into. And I thought we were doing so good. We freed the slaves, and we let women vote, and we slowly let minorities vote, although we're starting to take their rights away again. We're starting to revert back to the 1800s, and we need to push forward. It's not okay to go back, guys. It's not okay to go back. Just go forward.
No, Lucy, you're exactly right. And sadly, the next story that I'm going to do is going back even further. You mentioned slavery. CNN, in the turmoil of Eric Garner and the protests and everything else, did Ask a Cop hashtag. And Media has a whole bunch of the questions because it went really, really wrong really, really quickly. And it's like kind of like when the NYPD wanted pictures of helping cops. What did you think would happen? Really, CNN, talk about doing less with less. So to be fair, I saw this in my Twitter feed. You could see some, I'm not going to read any of the ones that I did, but if you want to put them in the YouTube chat, maybe Haven or Lucy will read them out. Give us some Ask a Cop questions. What you think might be an Ask a Cop. We're a little participatory here today because it's the last show of the year. So we'll have a little participatory fun here. But here are some of the better ones. Well, better isn't bad, but still really good. Jamila Lemieux, L-M-I-E-U-X. I'm horrible with names, so oops. I have a math question. If one black man has 0 guns, 0 knives, and 2 hands, how many bullets does it take to disarm him? But Mommy Jones asks, CNN, got both hands on the keyboard. Cool if I reach for the remote? Ask a cop. And Marcus Netters, what type of bulletproof clothing should I purchase in case of an accidental discharge of a weapon? Hashtag Ask a Cop from Marcus Netters. So, Haven, little bit of commentary, and do you have any Ask a Cop questions? Or do you have a legitimate Ask a Cop question?
I personally try my best to not talk to police officers, whether jokingly, seriously, or any form of communication. I stay in my house. I don't want you looking at me. I won't look at you. You go do what you need to do. I'm going to do what I need to do. And let's just have an amicable dislike of each other and be separate. That's just me. But this is really funny. The only thing that I find, like, of course, this is Twitter, so everybody's going to drag the cops out left and right. I wish that CNN would just, there's some things from the newsroom that you should adopt. One of them is getting like a young 20-something-year-old that knows what the fuck they're doing with social media and putting them on there so that you don't look like an ass clown when you're trying to do these heartfelt things. Like, they're totally missing the pulse of everything that's going on. We're not at the point of let's have a conversation and ask cops things. Because people are starting to get angry, people are starting to get scared, people are starting to get frustrated. And the one weird thing is that when the ghetto kid in an inner city and the redneck that's on some kind of fucking farm starts seeing the police and that conspiracy on the same page, that's something to worry about. So we need to start addressing people's feelings and what's going on and the anger that's behind all of this before it bubbles over, which I don't think Ask a Cop did any of that. They just pretty much pissed off a bunch of pro-police officers, and it was a way to vent for all those other people who feel unbelievably frightened from cops, which I am terrified of police officers. I don't even want to. I see uniforms.
Oh, no, I hear you, Haven. I am too. I'll tell a real quick story, and then we'll throw it over to Lucy real quick. I once had to explain to a Las Vegas sheriff what a bear was in the gay world, and that was the most awkward conversation I've ever had with a police officer. Because he wanted a description of somebody who was, ironically, on America's Most Wanted, and lived in my apartment at the time. And I said, he's like a bear. And the guy was like, what do you mean by bear? So instead of Ask a Cop, the cop asked me a question, and it was awkward. It was really, really awkward. That's what happens in my life. Awkward stuff. Lucy, breaking on this, and if you see any questions in the YouTube chat, bring them forward.
I do have a question for a cop. If I hang out with one other black person, will they shoot just the black person, or will I get shot too? Like, can I be like, no, don't shoot, I'm white, and they're white? Can I, like, be like, no, they're not actually black, you're just stupid, I'm a white person vouching that they're white? Because you know how, like, people always make that joke, oh, no, it's okay for me to say whatever, I've got a friend who's black? Can I go up to cops and be like, no, my friend is cool, it's legit, I'm white?
No, see, they don't want any witnesses, but Haven wants to answer that. Let Haven answer it a little bit better.
For you, we would both get shot, especially if you're wearing your head garments. They'd be like, oh shit, a nigger and a terrorist, we need 2 birds with 1 stone. Two birds with one stone. Let's knock them out together. That's
Okay, I'm glad I didn't respond with that. Okay. I'm glad you okay. It's all hands up. Don't shoot. But two birds, one stone. I totally hear you. But I'm not in the chat room. But Lucy, do you want to comment on that? Since you got your question answered.
You know what? It's okay. I'll just pull this off and be like, no, I'm white. I'm white. I'm white. Check me. I'm white. I've got a card that says I'm white. I can vouch for the black people. They're also white. I'll just stand in front and I'll be, because like the whiteness is a shield. You know that, right? Like you've never seen any of those like.
Is that like the Mormon magic underwear?
It is. I'm like convinced me being white is like a shield because I've never seen one of those white open carry people get shot and killed like that little 12-year-old boy. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure if I was to like stand in front of a group of black people and be like, "Oh my God, they're okay," and like stretch my arms out, I'll be like, "No, they're white. It's cool."
Actually, like, I live in a rather yuppie neighborhood, so I try to go out in whiteface just so that I can go to like Harris Teeter or something without a problem, which really works. You know, everybody, you know, and I already have like a very articulate way of speaking, which amazes all white people, which is great. So little powder, maybe like some baby powder, and I walk in. You know, I try to like wear my bulletproof vest under my jacket just in case. You never know. Keep my head down, but I don't wear a hoodie. I have a wig on that's blonde, so you know, put blue contacts in. None the wiser. Totally safe.
Yep, this is what happens when Tom Reynolds hosts TYT Community. We go a little off the rails, but I'm okay with that because this is a legitimate discussion. We need to have this discussion because, again, it's like you said, CNN doing less with less, and it's really sad. Lucy, one more quick word, and then you got a story to come up with.
Oh, yeah. No, Tom, this isn't what happens when you host. This is what happens when stupid old people think that they understand how the internet works. You know what I mean? Like, they think, oh, ask a cop. Only real questions are going to get through on this hashtag, baby. And then we're like, no. No. Silly, CNN. You need to get some new blood in your veins.
Well, until they get a little bit more ratings, I don't think so. But to be fair, apparently Wolf Blitzer is beating Schultz in the ratings, and that, you know, that just scares the hell out of me. I don't know how, you know, apparently I guess they're all watching to see if he's going to ever wake up from his coma. And I don't know.
Especially Wolf is pulling a lot more people out the nursing home. I'm really proud of him.
Fair enough. Let's move on. Lucy, why don't you do your story? And we're kind of doing a round robin of stories today. And Haven, you can come first. I'll go last because I'm okay. I like women being in control of things. I'm okay with that. Hell, I like anybody else other than me being in control. So take it away when you're ready. Lucy, it's you.
Oh, okay, sorry. Technical difficulties, computer's being a little bit slow. So, there's an advertisement out right now in the UK, and it's by ad.com. They launched #ShedAlight campaign with a stirring video. The advert illuminates homeless people with Christmas lights. The campaign makes those who often go ignored unmissable. Now, this is all because UK has 93,000 homeless at Christmas time this year, is what the article's saying. And the only way to really understand is to watch the video, but they've also got like pictures, stills. I watched the video right before I came on. I just wanted to cry. It starts off with these homeless people digging through the trash, wrapping the lights around themselves, and then the lights come on. It's just so sad. It's just so sad. Like, it makes me want to cry.
No, you're right, Lucy. You're absolutely right. It is a heartwarming ad. It highlights what needs to be highlighted and spoken about more, especially when, oh, I don't know, we're supposed to be talking about the baby Jesus being born, and if you're Christian, you're all for Jesus, and yeah, no Uzi, sorry guys. And no torture either. Sorry, he didn't like that much either. But yeah, you're supposed to be for Jesus and the poor and helping people. And this is what this reason for this season what I was taught as a Catholic anyway, what the reason for this season was. And we miss that in the commercialism. What about, oh, I don't know, baking a cake for somebody. Now, you don't want me baking a cake because, bad. That would just be bad. But baking something, doing something nice, oh, I don't know, making something. Now, again, you don't want me making anything. Again, bad. But e-cart, something where I don't know, the thought that counts. It doesn't have to be materialistic. And that's the problem that I get into with the holidays. I actually really enjoy the lights. I enjoy the festive stuff. I always have. But I've always had a problem with, and it's not because I'm broke, it's because it's not what it's supposed to be about. And that's what I was taught it was not supposed to be about. But when we live in this culture where it is, and we have so many homeless people, we miss that. And in this country too, the homeless children population is huge in this country. And a lot of it is because parents are throwing out kids who are coming out as gay and lesbian and transgendered, and they don't know how to handle it because, oh, they're supposedly Christian. They're supposedly Christian. Well, you handle it like Christ would. You deal with it. But that's what's missing. So, Haven, I've taken the floor a little bit. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I've seen this project, and it's illuminating, to say the least. But it's something I'm kind of just tired of people noticing homeless people during Christmas when it's cold as fuck. Like, it also gets hot in the summer and there's homeless people there. And it also, I mean, we tend to be rather selfish when we are people that have things. I know that I'm somebody that has things. I could complain, but I won't kind of situation. And I think every homeless person that I've come across has been nothing but unbelievably giving. And it seems like even the less that you have, the more you're willing to share it with other people. And we do them such a disservice as human beings. Like, to me, it's not a Christian thing. It's not it can be. Jesus would have probably done something about this, all this other shit. We could speculate. But in all honesty, it's about being humans. And I don't understand how we can walk down the street and totally judge somebody who's homeless. We don't want to give them money. We don't want to go out of our way to walk that extra 20 feet to a grocery store or anything to get them some bread and, maybe some peanut butter or jelly so they can eat or anything like that. Like, we just walk over them, and yet we want to complain about our terrible, shitty lives while we're on our laptops and our PlayStations and shit. And, I love this project because it brings attention to it, but the homeless are here 24/7. It's not just Christmas. And I think we as people are failing each other, and especially, the young LGBT youth that you brought up, Tom, that's a very serious thing. A lot of kids that are homeless are LGBT youth who got kicked out by their families and have no legal recourse to protecting themselves. And a lot of them are subjugated to rape, prostitution, a lot of fucked up things. And we're screwing each other over. And it shouldn't take the holiday spirit to bring about a give a fuck where we, look at some pictures or anything like that. We should naturally see these people any type of day and try to make their lives easier. I have a quick story, though. When I was a kid, I had somewhat bad depression. And one day I was just walking around, and there's a homeless guy that I used to always hang out with and chill with. And one day he saw me sad sitting at a park bench. And he knew that I loved McDonald's. And this guy, for whatever reason, happened to score McDonald's dollars. And he split half of his McDonald's dollars with me. This is the only way he had access to food. And because he saw a little kid that was depressed and wanted to make sure that they got their favorite milkshake that day to cheer them up, he did that. And ever since that day, I've had nothing but respect for people who are homeless and people who are in that struggle. Because I've experienced personally the fact that they were willing to give even though they don't have anything. And I would always try to do my best. And I just wish that other people would experience that or at least see it so that it's not just something that they see online. And it's like, oh, shit, you know, there's people that are homeless, and then they go back along their way, but actually do something to make somebody's day better when they're in that situation.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing that, Heaven, because that's the thing. It's a 24/7 problem. As LGBT and LGBT friendly, we need to be more proactive as a community about it. And I get really angry on my show on Some Say with Tom and Nikki about how we talk about the middle class. Well, you know what? The middle class are doing not great, but okay. The homeless and the poor are getting fucked up the ass. And we need to be talking about them more than just the middle class, because the homeless and poor should be able to get to the middle class. And if they're not being allowed to and not having helping hands like SNAP and other things, and somebody giving them money and being able to panhandle, there are so many city ordinances that are trying to ban panhandling now because they want to just brush it aside and brush these people aside. They're human beings. Would Jesus brush them aside? No. I bet $50 they'd be the first damn people on Jesus jet and be in first class. They'd be flying with the damn captain, while all these, if they even made it on Jesus jet, these rich Brian Fisher types, torture is okay, who would Jesus torture, would not be anywhere on that plane. If they are on that plane, it's going to be in the cargo hold because they're going to be dropped down somewhere. But that's my personal opinion, obviously. Lucy, any final thoughts on this?
Yes. I have 3 points. First off, to your thing about the homeless people being the first on the Jesus jet, Jesus is the one who said it is easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. Pretty sure that's in your Bible. Look it up somewhere. Pretty sure it's in the Quran too, but I'm not 100% sure. It's somewhere. It's in one of the holy texts that somebody said, and it was pretty important. Secondly, to Haven's point, when she was telling the story, that just makes me think of the videos of the people, and they'll ask strangers, oh, hey, I'm hungry, can I have some of your food? And then they'll give a homeless person some food, and then they'll ask the homeless person, oh, man, I'm hungry, can I have some? And the homeless person always shares their food when nobody else did. So, damn it, now I forgot my third point. Shit.
It's okay. I admittedly screwed up the order, but you know, at least I'm consistent. I screwed up the order on Some Say with Tom and Nikki. I got to do it on TYT Community. So whoops.
But now you get throw punches, flying throw punches, because I had 3 points.
Well, the first 2 are valid. Do you want to add anything else to it though?
No, I forgot what it was. I think it was just, this is what my third point was. I would be really interested to see, because, like, Muslims have Ramadan where they give, and, you know, it's one of the tenets, and, like, that's the biggest area. I would be interested to see how Ramadan compares to Christmas and how much people give to homeless and stuff. Like, I don't know. I think that would be really interesting if someone wanted to do a study.
Right. I was just going to say, somebody needs to do a study on that shit, because I bet you your numbers are higher than our numbers, and I bet you even the poorest of the poor are giving out more. And obviously, sometimes you can't. But and that's realistic. But it doesn't even have to be giving something out. It could be as simple as sharing a couch for a night, or which I've done. I said, again, I've had some batshit crazy people come to my house, but I've done it, and it's worth it because I know I'm at least helping, and they're off the street for a night. And that's important because, you know, a shower or a little food in their stomach is always good and always healthy. And I get driven nuts with this far-right ring Christian nation. Well, check yourself. As Cenk Uygur would say, fix your face, Christians.
I mean, I think instead of just doing a study, I wish that we were, we're a multicultural country, but we kind of keep our multiculturalism to ourselves. One of the things that I wish that we adopted as Americans is that sense of giving to those less of us that are in the pillars of Islam, where it's mandatory for you to take care of people who are less, that have less than you, who are homeless, who are starving. That's an important thing. And the way I see it is at the end of the day, all we have are each other in this country. Because the second that our market cannot sustain these corporations, they're going to fucking leave. And they're not going to come save us. They're not going to create jobs here. They're already moving jobs out of the way. So at the end of the day, all we have is each other. We need to start learning how to give a fuck about each other. We need to start learning how to take care of each other, because if you plan on having your family in this country for a very, very long time, you're going to have to learn how to adapt to it. And you're going to have to learn how to take care of your community, because at the end of the day, that's all you're going to fucking have. Sony's not going to be there for everybody. Walmart's going to leave us eventually, or they're going to poison us to death with their shitty clothing and their shitty food. So it's like, we have to do something, and we should adopt the good things that come out of certain cultures, which is to take care of those who are less fortunate than us. And it's unfortunate that our Christian nation somehow lost that in our journey through, corporatism and consumerism for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm not just bashing Christianity. I'm bashing any religion and or social group that just ignores homelessness as a whole. If you're going to ignore it and not deal with it, I have a problem with you. If you're going to ignore this aspect and not talk about it, mainstream media, I'm looking at you, and only talk about the middle class, how are those poor people ever going to become the middle class? It ain't going to fucking happen if you don't start talking about it and dealing with it. Instead of $1,000 luxury car, Congress, I'm looking at you, monthly stipend. Maybe you could have given a homeless or poor family that $1,000 a month for the next year that you're getting for your luxury car that you really don't fucking need that badly. And you could, I don't know, maybe a escort. I think Congress should all be driving escorts or whatever the craptacular, and I'm sorry, Ford. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. The econo car. If I got to get stuck in, if I get a rental and I got to stuck driving in an econo car, Congress sure as hell does when they don't want to deal with the poor and they want to test them for drugs and everything else. And those cases are so low. Lucy, I'm going to give you the final word and ask you, do you want to do the Kim Jong-un story or would you like me to do it? It's up to you.
Fuck yeah, let's do the Kim Jong-un story. I've just got cute little things to say. You can present it and everything.
Okay, I'll present the Kim Jong-un story. Now, if you've listened to Some Say with Tom and Nikki, you know that I've been kind of on the side of North Korea, but not for what they did, obviously. I had other reasons. I got kind of crap for it, but I've changed my tune. I'm with freedom. And since Sean isn't here, I will actually formally on the show, TYT Community, apologize to Sean for giving him a little grief on Facebook. Sean, tear. Sorry. Okay? So let's move on with it. I wanted to do the fun part. And my biggest problem with it, I have to say, is really the imagery of this movie coming out on Christmas time, when it's supposed to all be about peace and love and harmony, and we have a guy's head blowing up. And, you know, really? Really? That's the message we're going to send at Christmas time? So Kim Jong-un death scene, and I still stand by that part, by the way. Kim Jong-un's death scene from the interview leaks online. And here we go. Let's get to it. North Korea has been announced as the denounced the interview, but earlier this month said the hack might have been carried out by sympathizers. Not me, by the way. That had nothing to do with it. The movie features a pair of journalists playing Franco and Rogan, who are asked by the CIA to assassinate North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. Now, obviously, we know that the attack is possibly the costliest ever for a U.S. company. Tier, Cry Me a River. I mean, it's Sony. Did you see some of the stuff they were saying? Can we not be butthurt about that part of it too, by the way? I mean, if we're going to be butthurt about anything, it's the fact that North Korea got a win in this by way of hackers. That's what we should be concentrate the butthurtness over, not feeling bad for the executives or anything else and all that. But back to this. Let's go here. There's a part I wanted to read and I can't seem to find it, so that's why I'm trying to scroll here, and I apologize. The scene features North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, Randall Park. By the way, really good casting for that, I must say, meeting a fiery end as a missile hits his helicopter. As the tyrant perishes from the explosion, the scene is dramatically slowed down to the sounds of Katy Perry's Firework. I kind of want to see it. I've been kind of holding on and seeing it. Now I kind of want to see the scene. Let's. I don't remember the order, so whoever wants to go first. Lucy, I know you've been wanting to go on this, and I know you wanted to do your military angle on it. So let Lucy go first. Sean, even though I was told not to be the agitator of the group, I will anyway. Freedom. Just for you, Sean, because we got into it pretty harshly. But Lucy, go.
I don't know. I think it's kind of hilarious. Like, if I was Sony, like straight up, if I was Sony, and I know they'll never do this, I would just put the movie out there on the internet for free. I'd be like, you know what? Fuck you, North Korea. Not only are we going to release the video, we're not going to make a single dollar. And then we'll count it as, I don't know. But I would just be shitty with them. I'd be like, now the movie's out there for free. How do you feel about that, North Korea? We were going to make money on you. No, nothing. Nothing. I don't know. I'm probably not ever going to see the movie, or I'm going to see it when it's on, like, Comedy Central, and it's, like, all edited down, just because I don't really find Rogan and Franco interesting actors, so I'm not interested. So.
Fair enough. Haven, you wanted to do a military angle on this, and also my question is, what does this help or hinder their careers? By the way, I'm curious how you feel about that too.
It's not going to hinder them because their fans don't really give a shit. I think my biggest pet peeve, because I mean, in all honesty, I'm not really emotionally invested in the feelings of Kim Jong-un and whatever hackers and all that shit, but my biggest pet peeve about this movie is that it perpetuates an ignorance of North Korea. You know, Americans, we don't pay attention to things. And what we see in movies, whether we like it or not, seeps into how we see the world in general. And I just think just by looking at what this movie was about and everything, it completely is ignorant to the political structure of North Korea and how much say Kim Jong-un has as opposed to his military advisors and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that we don't know. And it's, aside from being unbelievably disrespectful and something that we would be, trying to bomb, or Fox News would be fucking blaming Obama if North Korea made a movie about him getting assassinated. Somehow that would be his fault. We all of a sudden don't give a shit. I think that this film is kind of just a shitty concept, in my opinion. Like, it's just not, it doesn't seem funny to me. I mean, I love Seth Rogen. I think James Franco was great in that fucking ape movie, Planet of the Apes, that one time. But outside of that, the whole concept is kind of just done, and it's stupid, and there's other things that they could have done. Like, I would much rather you done an Inglourious Bastard kind of thing and go back in time and kill, fucking Akhenaten or some shit instead of fucking with Kim Jong-un, because a lot of us don't even really give a shit or know them. And this was just a whole beehive for probably a shitty comedy.
And not for nothing, anybody who's feeling bad for Sony, Cenk Uygur did all the numbers on how much they made and how much they screwed over actors and everything else, and what they said about certain actors and actresses and people. It's like, don't cry for me, Argentina, aka Sony. It really is. It's really just obnoxious. I want to do. We don't have the video for it because I don't know if we got a little miscommunication, screwy or whichever. But Gordon Klinger-Schmidt, we have fun with him on our show. He is the, I shit you not, Colorado state representative who got elected. He does a show, a regular show on YouTube, and he's a former Navy chaplain. And he was commenting on a Fox News poll that showed 58% of the respondents wanted to repeal Obamacare, and this was reported by Right Wing Watch. And he said, and I quote, "We ought to look to the Lord for our health care," Klinger-Schmidt said during his PUN news program. He said, "If you listen carefully to the Lord, your God, and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands and keep all his decrees," the shellfish count, "I will not bring you on any diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you." He continued quoting Exodus 15. And he asked, "Isn't that inspiring? I personally prefer to look to Almighty God as my healer, and not to my government or the government as substitute God, substitute healer." Klinger-Schmidt added, "Before praying, Father in heaven, we turn away from idolatry that so many have in their hearts, that they think government is better healer than Jesus. But Jesus, we know you are the healer." And this, I'm gonna throw this to Haven and then to Lucy. Bitch, then why the hell are you a state representative? Why are you in government if you hate it so much? That's what I got for you. Why are you in government getting a paycheck by the people, for the people, and all that nonsense? Why are you a state representative? You fucking hypocrite. By the way, first F-bomb dropped by me. Haven, take it away.
It kind of irks me that he's a Navy chaplain, because it just makes my Navy look like shit, and I don't appreciate that. But, I mean, of course, the best way to destroy something is to be the parasite that goes into it and infects it and sucks it dry. So I think that's kind of been the MO and the mode of operations for a lot of right-wing Christians. They didn't get the attention that they wanted when they were, freely pushing their political agenda at the pulpit, even though they needed to be taxed for that. So they decided that they're going to get into our system and pump this kind of bullshit. I don't have a problem with people being Christian. I don't have a problem with you having a religious belief. Whatever, do what you got to do. I do have a problem with being an American citizen, knowing that there's supposed to be a separation between church and state, and here you are pumping your beliefs, which I guarantee you, especially in Colorado, not all of your constituents follow what you subscribe to. So if it doesn't sound like something you could tell everybody, you should probably keep that shit to your fucking self. Because I'm pretty sure that there are scientists in Colorado, there are, Muslims in Colorado, there are Buddhists in Colorado, there are potheads in Colorado who probably don't even see the world any way that you think. And that's just so aggravating and so pretentious to think that you can get into government and shove what you believe down other people's throats. And God forbid anybody give you a little taste, just a little taste of what you do to other people. Then it's freak out and there's war on Christians and all this other crap. It's disgusting, and I wish like hell he didn't serve in the U.S. Navy.
To be clear, I misspoke. It was former Navy chaplain. He actually got kicked out because of his right-winger views. So there's that goal for you there, Haven. And I hear you on that. They do that, and they go into government to break it apart and then say, see, it doesn't work. I'm making my point for me. Like IRS, they've defunded the hell out of it. Oh, by the way, I do want to point something out. In lieu of this, that Cromnibus bill that everybody loves to hate, in this, they didn't do the body cams. The funding for the body cams that the president had asked for, the $263 million. I know we're getting sidetracked, but yeah, they didn't do that. So that's typical Republicans and people in power. The president asked for something, no, we're not going to do it. So we could complain about the problem before and continue to have the argument. So I guess it kind of falls in line with what we're talking about. Lucy, go ahead, my darling.
Let me just say, if he was quoting Exodus, not like a Bible historian, but wasn't Exodus when Moses was taking the Jews out of Egypt? So if God was speaking to Moses, because that's who he was talking to, and he said, follow me and I won't put the plagues, he was only speaking to the Jews. I'm sorry, Christians. Hate to put that little piece of knowledge. Like, if you've never heard that, I feel really bad for you. But Exodus is just the Jews leaving Egypt. So therefore, anything that God said to Moses to say to the Jews was meant for the Jews, not the Christians, because there were no Christians at the time. Does that make a little bit of sense? Like,
no, yeah, no, I hear you. It's just,
and
yeah.
to that, listen, and to that, if this whole thing worked out, why is it that Jews are most likely to have Tay-Sachs disease? Like, sorry, God is great and amazing, if that's what you want to believe, but maybe the reason that we have vaccines is because God was answering somebody's prayer and was like, hey, you're not even going to get sick now. Take this, bro. You'll be okay.
Well, that's like, you're right, Lucy, and that's like the story of, I tell this story on Some Say with Tom and Nikki often enough, or maybe not enough sometimes, where we're talking about God, and God was like, this guy's on the roof, and or he starts out in the house, right? And he sees the rain coming. The cop goes by and says, "I'm going to get you out of here." No, I'm waiting for a sign from God. I'm not going yet. And then he goes up to it goes incrementally up to the roof, and then the guy dies, and he goes to God. He's like, "Well, why didn't you get me out?" He's like, I gave you the cop. I gave you the guy with the boat. I gave you all these signs. It's not my fault you didn't get to deal with any of them. So, Lucy, you're exactly right. People need to realize that sometimes God comes in the form of a human, a.k.a. Jesus Christ, if you believe, or whichever. If you don't, more power to you. Doesn't draw any blood from me either way. But people get so irrational talking about this stuff, and this guy is the most irrational of all when it comes to this rhetoric. And Haven, go ahead if you want to close on this real quick.
But, I mean, this guy's also full of shit, because let there be a case where a family member decided to pray for their child's cancer to go away rather than go and send them to medical treatment, that those parents are going to go on trial for child neglect and abuse. So it's like, you don't really believe that. Christians don't really believe that, because if there were Christians on that trial for a mother who decided, hey, I wanted to just pray that my child would live forever instead of feeding them, they would not be like, you know what, God said that she can do this, so we're just going to roll with that. Like, nobody thinks like that. So it's like, even this is just probably disingenuous bullshit just to rile up the crazy people who are the only ones that go out and vote these days. And it's like, it's just so seedy and like slimy. Like, he's a fucking salamander just slithering through government. It's just disgusting.
And to your point, I'm actually glad that we had the mix up with the clip, because it's even worse than when I just say it and fumble through it than when he does it, because it really is that seedy, Haven. So for that, what I'm going to do is we're going to do one video and then your questions in the YouTube chat. So pile them in there and we'll answer them. This is the last show of the year, so throw them in there and we'll go from there. But we have one. We're going to go down memory lane. We're going to get in our TARDIS. We're going to wind it up, and we're going to go down memory lane to the Bundy Ranch. Remember Bundy before you was wondering? Go ahead. Go ahead, Lucy.
What's a Taurus?
TARDIS. 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 Okay. This is why I swallow, because I don't always spit it out right. Sorry, I had to. It's the last show of the year. I had to. So, sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Jenk. Oops. Oathkeeper's founder, Stephen Rhodes, told a gathering of constitutional sheriffs last month, which also features Representative Stockman of Texas. Federal officials eventually backed down in their standoff at Bundy Ranch earlier this year because they knew that if they didn't, the U.S. military would turn against them and the federal government, igniting a second civil war. Now, we're lucky we have Haven because she has a little bit of a military background, and we're going to have her, after we do the clip, talk about this first, and then I'll go. But we're gonna play the clip first, and you could hear everything and go from there and make up your own minds, and be sure to throw in your questions in the YouTube chat. But Jeff, my executive producer extraordinaire, if you could throw that clip up, that would be great.
You feds out there, don't think that the guys who just got out are much different than the guys who are still in. They're of the same mindset. And this is the politicians and your would-be dictators in Washington, D.C., this is what they're worried about, and they should be worried about it. They have to worry that if they go too hard, they drop the hammer too blatantly on Americans like at Bundy Ranch, that the Marine Corps will flip on them, and I think it would. And the same goes for the close to the tip of the spear in the Army Airborne, your Special Forces, your Navy SEALs, all those groups out there. The more hardcore they are as warriors, the more likely they are to look at something like that and say, "That's it, I'm done," and join the resistance. And so that's why they are careful about what they do. It's not out of charity or concern for your lives that they don't drop the hammer. As we found out later on, they were actually considering a military strike at Bundy Ranch. Can you believe that? Washington Times reported it. They were considering using military force at Bundy Ranch. Thankfully, they did not. Because if they had, that would have kicked off a civil war in this country.
Okay, would have kicked off. See, they're peaceful. They're peaceful Christians, right? They always go on this meme of they're peaceful Christians. It's the Muslims. It's the angry Muslims who are the crazy ones. And Haven, are you gonna join up? Are you gonna be all with the Bundy Ranch, the wondering crowd?
Fuck no. And I don't. Look, this asshole said, don't think that the guys who got out are different from the guys who are still in. Usually, when assholes like that get out, it's because they got kicked out. Because the military does not allow for ignorant, stupid shit like that. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of service members who are very conservative, who don't agree with President Obama at all. Some of them are racist service members. We try to weed that out, but it happens. Some of them legitimately have their reasons against whatever Obama's doing. But it's like, when you join, people don't understand why people join the military usually. Either you're doing it because you supposedly love your country, or you're doing it because you want free schooling, or you're doing it because you need a fucking job. Nowhere in that is sedition and overturning a fucking government. Like, nobody does that. Nobody has that real mentality. And even if they do, they get kicked the fuck out because those assholes never know how to keep their mouth shut long enough to finish their fucking Ugh. All right, I gotta bring it down.
Yeah, you bring it down, Haven, because you're getting angry, and I love that angry, but we need it for the angry Muslim. and by the way, I want to point out that this guy is the one with the tinfoil hat, and usually when they get kicked out, like you were saying, Haven, this is where they go to, the Oath Keepers. This is where they end up. The vast majority of them are groups like this, the militias. So the tinfoil hat boy. Chill the hell out. And
you, dude. You think Clive and Bundy is where the military would fucking have some pause and be like, wow, that's fucked up? No, how about the shit that's going on in Ferguson? Or how about the shit that's going on all over this fucking country where we can see that our fellow citizens are getting their fucking rights trampled on? That's what a lot of military members notice. We notice how cops treat people like shit because sometimes they treat military members like shit. And it's like, come on, man. Like, we're not your toys. We're not your pawns. Sure, there may be some crazy fucking service members that are out there who agree with this asshole, but I guarantee you they're not the majority. Because all we want to do is fucking work for our country, get our paycheck, go get our education, and better ourselves and better our lives. That's what a military member's goal is to do right by their country, better themselves, and do right by their family. That is it. None of that fucking overturning governments and all this other stupid fucking ignorant crazy shit. Like, it's so aggravating. And I wish like hell that these right-wing people would leave military members out of it. You so worried about us. How about you fucking volunteer to make sure that we get our fucking service members who don't have legs and all that shit and have sacrifice? How about you take care of them? How about you focus on them instead of trying to get us to fight your stupid fucking fight for you, you bastard.
Right? No, you're absolutely right. And I've told you this off air. I'm not, and I said it on Some Say with Dominicki. If I didn't have my heart condition, man, I would have volunteered for the Navy in a heartbeat. As a kid, all I wanted to do was be on the USS Enterprise. So that was the closest. I was a dork, man. So I hear you. So thank you, and thank you to our service members. And most of the normal, without the tinfoil hat and Alex Jones lovers, know that this is not how our military is. Lucy, take the floor, my darling.
I don't know. I always thought that if a service member turned against their country in such a way that this guy's talking about, they would be considered treasonous. And I do believe that there's an amendment in the Constitution that says if you're treasonous, that's punishable by death. Sorry, boo. Espionage, treason, I would be that prosecutor who'd be like, well, you tried to take over the government, maybe for another government, it was maybe espionage, and you're maybe gonna get punished with your life. It's just so crazy. Honestly, I think what Clive and Bundy did was treason. I really do. I still am shitty that he's not been sent to Gitmo and tortured and rectally fed. I don't agree with it, but hey, apparently that's okay according to the U.S. government and everybody else. So
yeah, hey. Lucy, you're right. Hey, maybe Brian Fisher can finally answer Tom Hartman's question: who would Jesus torture? Clive and Bundy. I'm just wondering. I'm not throwing that. I'm not saying do it. I'm just wondering. I'm a wondering white guy here. I'm a wondering honky.
No. Listen, and don't take me wrong. Don't torture anybody. But if we're going to start torturing people, why don't we torture people that we know have actually just tried to actually commit acts of treason by holding AK-47s at our federal officials and say, hey, we're going to shoot your women first if you don't give me back my fucking cows. Jesus fucking Christ. Come on, people. Do you not see... If they were brown, they would have been shot. If they were black or they were brown.
Oh, hell yeah. You're exactly right. And
No. It would be like Waco. It'd be like another, it would just be like, we'd be like, oh, Bundy Ranch, and we'd associate it with something like Waco. But we don't, because they were white old Republicans who had AK-47s and a bunch of automatic weapons and paramilitia people, and they were trying to take over the government, and they don't even recognize the federal government. Am I the only person who does not see them as a possible terrorist threat? Weren't they stopping cars? Weren't they stopping Americans and asking them and telling them, hey, you're not from around here, you're not allowed to drive on our public roads? I'm
No, you're exactly right. And when Harry Reid called him out as a terrorist threat, he got called out by the right-wing crazies, and that should have also been called out as treason. You're exactly right, Lucy. Haven, you were shaking your head yes, and like you wanted something to say. And then any more Ask TYT Community questions, throw them in the YouTube chat. I know we do have one, but go ahead, Haven.
I just also wanted to point out that in the military, there's this thing called the UCMJ, which is Uniform Code of Military Justice. And I can guarantee you, there is definitely an article in there that covers sedition and going against your government. That is illegal in the military. In addition to that, I guarantee you, Navy SEALs, those Marines, nobody in the service, in the military service community, holds the core values of the military like those guys. Those guys are hardcore, not fucking around about their country. Because if they weren't, they wouldn't be fucking Navy SEALs. They wouldn't be those infantrymen. Those guys are about being American. And to tarnish them and to say, hey, of course they would fucking come on our side and totally just start a civil war because, hey, they're those badass Navy people that we jerk off to at night. Of course they would be on our side. That's bullshit, and it's ignorant, and it's like it does a disservice to those guys because they legitimately are about protecting their country. That's why they joined to be SEALs. You know, like people don't understand how hardcore and about that life you have to be a Navy fucking SEAL. And they would never do some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? At the very worst, maybe some of them will go to Blackwater. Maybe. But for the most part, they're not going to be these fucking military Minutemen fucking running around here because they live that life. They're not fucked up in the head. They've already done it. And it's hilarious that it's the people who can't make it into the military that have this fucking fetish over what the SEALs and everything do. And a lot of SEALs don't brag about their job. They don't brag about what they want to do and what they had to do for this country. They don't even fucking talk about it. But you have these fucking asinine dick riders ripping and running around here trying to ride on the coattails of our service members who fucking put their lives on the line. And it's like, fuck you, bro. Fuck you. Fuck you and everything that you fucking believe in. And fuck Cliven Bundy, too. I agree with you, Lucy. It's funny when white, I don't want to sound racist.
Go for it. Go for it, because dude, that's what we're going to be called anyway, so go for it.
But it just so happens that when things happen, depending on the level of pigmentation that you have, the terminology for your actions change. So what Cliven Bundy did, I as an American was unbelievably angered by. How fucking dare you put a gun to a military or a government official? These weren't even military members that were going to talk to them. They were government officials. And how fucking dare you threaten their fucking lives like you're about that life? You're goddamn right. I'm glad that our government thought about fucking doing a military intervention with your ass, because you have no fucking right to do that. Fuck you and fuck Cliven Bundy with everything that I am made of, because that's bullshit. And I don't think that those people are patriotic. I don't think those people are true Americans, because true Americans would never threaten a fellow American like that. True Americans won't try to fucking upheave their government like that. True Americans fix their government. They stay inside of their system. They want to fucking help their community. They don't want to fucking be selfish and just fucking try to suck dry as much as they can from the taxpayer. Like, fuck Cliven Bundy. Fuck him. That's my opinion on Cliven Bundy. He can eat shit and die.
Okay, let me just say one quick thing to you, Haven. You can say it's a thing about their race, because I have never to this day, I've never seen one of those white open carry people get shot dead like that little 12-year-old black kid. When I start seeing that, then I'll be like, oh, it's definitely not a race issue anymore. It's a police. No, but until then, it is a race issue. And I'm sorry, like, you're more likely to get murdered than me by cops, and that sucks, and I really hate it, and I don't agree with it. You know what I mean? Like, but I've never seen any evidence that points to it just being a police brutality issue. It's always been more evident, from the evidence that I've seen, especially the past, like, couple of months. It's always been, like, a black issue. So I have no problem you pointing out the race issue.
And, you know, and I don't want to disparage anything that Haven has said or go any further, because you hit the nail on the head, Haven. So did you, Lucy. And I am not going to be patriarchal at all. I'm just going to continue with the questions, because I am so in tune with my sexuality, and I'm okay with it. I can give you guys the power, and you could beat the shit out of them, and they can cry like bitches. So the final word is yours. Let's move on to the question. I know we do have one from Polly, who asks, and I'll throw it to Lucy first, then Haven. How do you feel about the thought of relations between Cuba and the USA? I got 3 words, and I'm done. About damn time. Lucy, go ahead.
I actually watched the press conference with my grandma, and she started to cry. She's not Cuban or anything. I don't know, maybe she just didn't have any drinks. She's an alcoholic, whatever. But she was like, really like, oh my God, you know, I was like, you know, it's great. And then, but the way Obama was wording it is like, he's like, oh, we're not going to have an embargo, but the word may still possibly, potentially, maybe, possibly, super possibly be there still. I'm just like, you know, we do business with Saudi Arabia, and they definitely infringe upon rights. So doing business with Cuba, who has some of the lowest HIV/AIDS rates, maybe we can learn a few things. I'm good with it. I'm happy.
Yeah, right. Not to mention the healthcare system, who has helped our Ebola victims and other Ebola victims. Maybe we could learn something about how to do healthcare properly, not for nothing. But Haven, go ahead.
Well, I grew up in Florida, in South Miami, so I've kind of just grown up in the Cuban culture and everything like that. I personally think that it's a very good thing to loosen up. I mean, the embargo, of course, is going to always be there, because God forbid we change anything that actually like doesn't work. But to loosen things up where people can help their families back home is a very good thing. I think if we really want to get rid of the communism that's in Cuba, we need to do it the same way that China kind of has been going, which is through commercialism. I mean, it's a seedy, fucking dangerous, double-edged sword, of course, but it wasn't until we enacted capitalism in these countries that they kind of loosened up. Lo and behold, people like having TVs and new fucking cars and shit. So I think if we're really worried about communism and, you know, Fidel Castro and everything, going down this route will probably be way more effective in the long run than with this stupid embargo. And that's not to say that the citizens in Cuba aren't already pointing things out. There's a lot of hip-hop artists in Cuba that do what they can to point out the fucked up things that are happening within their government. Because, of course, the Cuban government is not perfect, and they're not treating their people as best as they could. So it's like, we need to loosen that up, and having a dialogue between the two countries would be very beneficial. I have personal friends who are definitely going to benefit from this and have their families benefit from this. So, I mean, it's a great thing. And Marco Rubio, of course, even though he's Cuban, he has to be, you know, the House Cuban for the Republican Party and say how much he hates his fellow Cubans and how terrible this is and, you know, how it's just going to hurt Americans and all this shit. But I think even within his own family, they can see that there's going to be some good things that come of this, that they can help back at home and help the people that couldn't make it over here.
No, you're exactly right, Haven. And the only worry that I have, and I'm going to get to Lucy next, I know she wants to say something. The only worry that I have is that these big corporations take advantage of the communist system the way they have in China and really screw over the people with low wages and slave wages and poverty wages. That is literally my only concern with that. But beyond that, about fucking time. Lucy wanted to say something. Go ahead, and if we have any other questions, we'll ask them. And Lucy, if you want to bring one up, go ahead.
I did. Well, no, not a question. I did. I just wanted to say I was watching this really interesting documentary on Al Jazeera, And they were talking about how a lot of baseball players that come from Cuba have to go to like Mexico, and then they have to get really seedy. Like it's really dangerous, and like the U.S., like the baseball here is going to be one of the biggest like markets, like the NBA, I don't know, NLBA, whatever the baseball one is here, is like they're really looking towards Cuba because
Major League Baseball.
okay, MBA, I don't know, too many letters. But whatever it is, like they're looking towards Cuba as like the new markets, and they've always looked towards Cuba for like the players, and they've always looked to like I don't know, just like they were talking about one from the Brooklyn Dodgers, or not Brooklyn Dodgers, like LA, I don't know, some team, and he was like, hold on, he was like, came through Mexico, and as soon as he got over the border, he had like a job waiting for him to play baseball for a professional team, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
There's also a little bit of a racial component to Cuba. I mean, a lot of, and this, in America, we kind of see race as like a black and white thing, but in Latin America, it's way more nuanced. And a lot of times they have a little bit of a better relationship with their different races. But in Cuba, you know, a lot of those baseball players that come over are darker skinned because that's the only way that a lot of darker skinned people can make it to the States. I remember when I was a kid way back when, there was a baseball player called El Duque, and his brother played for the Marlins, and he was lucky enough to get scouted, and he played for the Yankees, I believe. And that's kind of what we kind of do with a lot of things in Latin America. The people that we like, the Marco Rubios, they can come here, no problem. They can set up shop. There's not going to be an issue. But the El Duques of the world, they get here by being scouted for baseball, or they get here by being amazing doctors. And I think that's another thing aside from baseball that's a really important thing that we can use. Cuba has some of the best doctors in the world, and they're some of the most giving doctors. They go all around the world helping people. So to open up our borders a little bit to bring in some of that talent would be amazing, and it would also open up a lot of doors that are otherwise shut for a lot of people in Cuba.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And Lucy, do you see any other questions in there, or do you want to wrap up, or do you guys have anything that you want to plug or promote or mention or anything like that before we close for the last show of the year?
I'm looking for a job. If anybody has a job they just want to give me. Hey, I thought I'd try.
Hey, you know what? It doesn't hurt to beg. Sometimes the best, you know. I ain't too proud to beg. So yeah, unobtainable men. Ding, ding, ding. Haven, would you like to plug anything, or
I'm trying not to work a lot because I've been working a lot. So, but I would like to plug my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/pyrohaven07. Also, you guys can catch me on Twitter, which is Haven GOTS. I'm doing a little bit of a series that is going to survey the relationship between international relations in the U.S. and how we manage democracy with our own national interests and whether or not those things conflict. So I already have a video up. Check that out, please, and like and subscribe to my channel if you think I'm interesting. If not, that's okay too. I don't like you either, but I'll just get over that.
Fair enough. I want to plug our gutter mind every time I say plug. But I want to real quick. Sunday is going to be possibly our last. Some say show of the year for Sunday. We may do a 28th show. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. But Sunday is 6 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be interviewing Norman Goldman. He is a lawyer and a talk show nationally syndicated talk show host. He used to be the senior legal analyst for Ed Schultz's show. We're going to be talking with him. It'll be fascinating. He's actually the guy who I modeled Some Say with Tom and Nikki after, with all the fun bits and all the clips and, you know, just kind of a more free-for-all type style show. So that will be really interesting. It's kind of like a mentor to me. So that'll be fun, and I will try my damnedest not to be like a fanboy, and Nikki will be there to control me with that. So that'll be fun. And then also want to like and subscribe this video and others for TYT Community, please, and TYT Nation. It really helps out. And also want to say that we're doing a Christmas show. It's the only show of the actual week we're going to do at 3 o'clock Easterns, 12 noon Pacific. During the week. It's the 23rd. That's going to be the only one in the week. And on Twitter, I will be posting YouTube clips from the past of the week, and that way I could do that for you guys. So if you need your Tom and Nikki fix, that's how you're going to get it. So I appreciate all the loyalty, and we've been picking up in listenership, and I really appreciate it. So and I want to do a huge shout out to Jeff. Jeff, thank you for giving me this opportunity, because I know I say I'm shy a lot, but I'm terribly shy. And doing this broke a big barrier of public speaking for me. So thank you very much. And I hope when I'm on, you don't get too many hate comments. Because I know I could be a big mouth and, you know, put my foot in it every once in a while. Unless I see any questions, I don't see any. Want to say thank you guys for watching, and see you tomorrow. And thanks again, everybody. And Lucy, thank you for coming on the show. And why don't you say goodbye, Lucy? Say goodbye, Lucy.
It was so much fun. I'm so sad this is the last one of the year of 2014, but I'll see you guys next year, 2015.
Unless we all get raptured, because that could happen. We could be on Jesus' jet, and boom, we're done.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be here forever. I'm probably going to miss the rapture, which is fine, because then that means I got all the hookers to myself.
Oh, see, no fair. I want some of them.
Hey, greedy bitch, that's all you're being.
First of all, I'm supposed to be the greedy one. What the hell?
I was not selfish.
Guys, thank you for guy. I feel like Sarah Palin over here. Thank you for helping me. Sean, again, I'm sorry I dropped the hammer on you a little bit much this week over North Korea, but it was fun. And you can spank me later. And we're out of here. This has been a show. Thank you all.
Bye, guys. Yum, 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 yum.